Governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, there addressing the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee in Wisconsin. She's one of the headliner speakers here on night 2, where the theme of tonight is making America safe again. Well, I'm joined live now by Dianna Muller. She is the founder of Women for Gun Rights and a gun rights activist. Dianna, thanks indeed for joining us on BBC News. Listening to Governor Huckabee Sanders there, she was speaking a lot about why women like Donald Trump, and she's speaking about freedoms and so on that he guarantees. Your organisation, Women for Gun Rights, what is it about Donald Trump that you like, that you see in him?
Well, you may not know, but Donald Trump hasn't always been great on our issue. When he first got into office the first time, he did the bump stock ban, which we didn't like. So it's not that I agree with him 100% of the time, but he has a constitutional understanding, and he did do a lot of good things for the Second Amendment. During COVID, he kept called essential the gun stores, so we were allowed to stay open. And then, of course, the 3 Supreme Court judges that gave us the Bruin decision was a big deal for gun rights advocates and gun owners across America. So he hasn't been perfect by any means, and I'm not in love with the man. I just think that his policies are best for America.
And speaking about gun rights, I mean, you are a professional shooter. You're very skilled at your sport, if you want to call it that, and it's your lifestyle, your profession as well. In this country, though, more children die from gun violence than by any other disease. Is it time for the laws to change?
Well, I would encourage you to look at those numbers, because when you hear that statistic, that includes 18 and 19-year-olds, and anywhere else, 18 and 19-year-olds are considered adults. It's a manipulation of statistics, and it's not true.
Still young people dying by gun violence.
So they can say under 20, but there's a lot of gun violence within the Chicago. Chicago lost like 100 people last weekend, and nobody's really addressing that. Disarming the good citizens of America do not make them safer. It actually makes them more dangerous. 96% of all mass public shootings happen in gun-free zones. So if they're dangerous, they're not only ineffective, they're dangerous.
Someone like you, though, who is skilled and trained, not everyone who has access to a gun falls into that category, though.
Okay, yes, correct. Well, and I don't know if but I was a 22-year police officer.
Exactly, yeah.
And I went to calls for service. I went to people who didn't have guns that called people who did have guns. So I know how important it is to be your own first responder. And so that's part of the reason why I choose to arm myself. Now, from a perspective of why the Second Amendment was written, I think it was not for hunting. It was to keep a tyrannical government in check.
And when we are here talking, all the speeches that we've heard from the stage tonight, many of them have spoken about how America is unsafe. As you say, you were a police officer for 22 years in Tulsa. Do you feel that America has become less safe?
Absolutely. I believe that the policies that are in place in some of these major cities are dangerous. The gun-free zones, the laxed prosecution. It's very sad, because we do not have to live like this. We could follow law and order, and we could keep bad people away. But the liberal policies that have been going on under the Biden administration, in my opinion, have really exacerbated the crime, letting people in across the border, not prosecuting people, not holding people accountable. Bad guys see that. They understand that, and they're just becoming more and more bold.
So what's the solution, do you think?
I think that you start with closing the border. I think you start with prosecuting, getting these liberal attorney generals out, and attorneys out of district attorneys, I'm trying to say, out of office, and people who will hold people accountable for breaking the law. That's where you start. And then from a gun rights advocacy perspective, I would love to see firearms education back in schools. When I grew up, you hear it all the time. When I grew up, we had guns in the back of the cars and didn't even lock the doors. So what
do you mean by firearms education in schools?
I believe that, even if you don't touch a firearm, that every child should know how to safely be around or approach a firearm. The 4 firearm safety rules should be taught hands down to every kid, every person on the face of the earth.
Do you think that would contribute to safety, though? I mean, we've been discussing earlier here about how not all schools are equal, not all levels of education are equal.
No, I absolutely think it would make a difference. And Colorado, I believe it was Colorado, did a study from the time they implemented hunter education in Colorado. Any kind of accidental injury with a firearm was reduced substantially.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Good to hear your thoughts. Dianna Muller, founder of Women for Gun Rights. Thanks indeed for joining us on BBC News.
Thank you.